Okay, so now we are looking at 8th grade South Carolina History, Standard 8 3-3. Explain the basic principles of government as established in the United States Constitution. So we are looking at the year 1789, when the United States was still governed by the Articles of Confederation. Shays' Rebellion quickly allowed the newly formed states to see that they were going to need a federal government with more power. So they convened at the Constitutional Convention and came up with the Constitution that we still use today. Now, not many people know this, but the people who attended the Constitutional Convention sort of let the public be under the understanding that they were just amending the Articles of Confederation. The public had no idea they were creating a whole new system of government. So, principles of the Constitution. First principle of Constitution, popular sovereignty. So this is the idea that people have the rights, that the power of the government comes from the people. Okay? So a government is only as powerful as the people allow it to be. A second principle, individual rights. Okay, so the rights of individuals are guaranteed in the Bill of Rights and in the preamble of the Constitution, and these are inalienable rights. So the government is not giving them to us, neither can they take them away. And these came from the ideas of John Locke, an Enlightenment thinker. Third principle of the Constitution is federalism, the idea that there is a separate national and state government. Okay, so there's two different levels of government, and of course the national government has more power, but this is something that will evolve over time. All right, and there's also a division of powers. There are some things that the federal government does that the state governments do not do, and vice versa. Also, one of the things that was most important to many of the founders was limited government. Okay, so the Constitution limits the government's powers, and it talks a lot about what the government can't do, what powers it doesn't have, in addition to the powers that it does have. And finally, principle of republicanism, not Republican as we understand it today, but what you might refer to as little r Republicans. Okay, voters can elect people to represent them, but voters have the voice. Okay, again, similar to the idea of popular sovereignty, that people have the rights and they give the government the power through voting. All right, then we have the structure of our government. And the structure of our government, both federal and state, is based on separation of powers and checks and balances. So we have three branches of government: executive, which is the president, and he can enforce laws, and he is our commander-in-chief. He's in charge of our military. Then we have the legislative branch, which is Congress. Congress creates the laws. All right, they are in charge of our budget, and they can declare war. Finally, we have the judicial branch. This is the Supreme Court, and this interprets constitutions and laws. And of course, we know that Supreme Court justices get lifetime appointments. Now, the founders did not imagine that the judicial branch was going to have as much power as it has today. That, of course, has changed, and it has quite a bit of power now. That was not the original intent of the founders. And these three branches all have powers over the other. Okay, the president can veto laws, but Congress can override these vetoes. Congress affirms, denies appointments to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court can rule Congress's laws unconstitutional. And the president, okay, or the executive branch, appoints justices to the Supreme Court. So we have this triangle in which each of the branches is checking the other. So these are the basic ideas of the Constitution. So our essential question for this indicator was, what led to the creation of the U.S. Constitution and what are the key characteristics of the document? Shays' Rebellion and really a lack of the states to be able to pay for anything as a federal government. So the lack of power of the federal government led to the creation of the United States Constitution. Key characteristics are popular sovereignty, individual rights, federalism, a limited government, and then our structure, which includes the three branches of government and our checks and balances.